President Trump's red wall in the Senate cracks a bit. In a rare display of spine, 12 Republican senators on Thursday defied their president and joined Democrats in passing a resolution to nullify President Trump's declaration of a national emergency at the Mexican border. Having already zipped through the Democratic-controlled House, the legislation is on track to draw the first veto of Mr. Trump's presidency. Then, unlikely to garner enough support to override such a veto, it is expected to die. Still, the Senate's 59-41 vote is a big deal. In practical terms, it could fortify the multiple lawsuits pending against Mr. Trump's absurd declaration, a faux emergency so nakedly political that even he admitted it was unnecessary. More important, the Senate Republicans' rebuke of the president shows that his chronic contempt for democratic norms, and for the Constitution, has become too much to stomach for at least some in his party. Senator Mitt Romney, Republican of Utah, explained, "This is a vote for the Constitution and for the balance of powers that is at its core." Shortly after the vote Thursday afternoon, Mr. Trump took to Twitter. "Veto," he wrote. For the record, the Republican senators voting for the resolution and against the president's power grab were, in addition to Mr. Romney, Lamar Alexander of Tennessee, Roy Blunt of Missouri, Susan Collins of Maine, Mike Lee of Utah, Jerry Moran of Kansas, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, Rand Paul of Kentucky, Rob Portman of Ohio, Marco Rubio of Florida, Pat Toomey of Pennsylvania and Roger Wicker of Mississippi. It is notable that this brushback of the president came just one day after the Senate voted 54-46 to end American support for Saudi Arabia's brutal, 4-year-old military venture in Yemen. 7 Republicans crossed party lines to pass a bill designed to claw back Congress's responsibility for declaring war. The measure is expected to pass the House as well, provoking a second presidential veto. In both cases, Mr. Trump lobbied Republicans, publicly and privately, to stand by him, if only to limit his margins of loss. He reportedly dangled funding promises in front of some members, even as he continued his Twitter taunts, including this Thursday gem: "A vote for today's resolution by Republican senators is a vote for Nancy Pelosi, crime, and the open border Democrats." But neither sticks nor carrots were enough to spare the president back-to-back humiliations. Senate Republicans were not exactly eager to cross Mr. Trump. In the lead up to Thursday's vote, members scrambled to avoid a confrontation. Mr. Lee put together a proposal to reform the National Emergencies Act. His bill, introduced Tuesday, would have automatically ended future declarations after 30 days, unless Congress voted to extend them. As an opening bid, the idea was worth debating, seeing as how the current law is clearly prone to abuse. But Mr. Lee was looking to strike a bargain in which Republicans would torpedo the resolution this week in exchange for Mr. Trump promising to back reforms sometime soon, a plan both politically risky and morally lame. Considering the president's untrustworthiness, lawmakers would have been taking a huge gamble that he wouldn't renege on reform the second the resolution was no longer a threat. Mr. Lee's proposed deal also sent the not-so-resolute message, not that it mattered. The president spurned Mr. Lee's offer Wednesday afternoon. A few hours later, the senator announced he would support the disapproval resolution, as he had in the vote on Yemen. The obvious, burning question is whether these votes are outliers, or a sign that Republican lawmakers are rethinking their blind loyalty to a president who routinely confuses public service with personal gratification. Either way, this week has provided welcome flashes of independence from at least a few Republican lawmakers. As for the rest of the Republican conference, it is increasingly, and depressingly, difficult to imagine what level of presidential outrage it would take to spur these lackeys to stand up for the integrity of their institution, much less the American people.